Don't just live for tomorrow, or just live in yesterday. Just be glad for all you have that's in today. And though you've come through many obstacles.
Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my blind reaction to Escape Room. This is a donation reward for Smurflogs, and was basically a suggestion from myself, just giving a few ideas and everything, because this is something that I had heard about, but wasn't like super high on my radar or anything. But it's something I was kind of interested in just to see the concept. Like, remember when we did that Truth or Dare movie? I think that was last year's Halloween special. But it was like just this fun little concept to see in a horror movie and everything. So this isn't the Halloween special, but it's that time of year, so why not? So I don't know anything about the actual plot of this film, but one thing to note, we are watching the 2019 Escape Room, because apparently there are 3 movies that are titled Escape Room that are all horror, and that all came out literally within a couple years of each other. One came out in 2017, one in 2019, and this one in 2019. Or 2017, 2018, then 2019. We're going with the most recent one here because it was the most, I guess you could say, mainstream of the 3. It was the one that was, you know, more out there. From what I could gather, the 2017 one was super independent. It was like, there's barely anything about it. And the 2018 one just wasn't as big. The 2019 one, though, did get a sequel. So that's interesting, and maybe that could be another future reaction. But yeah, so we got the 2019 one here, and I don't know who's in it. I don't know if anyone big is in it, or if it's just like indie cast. I don't know anything about the story or anything. The only thing I know is that it has to do with escape rooms. And when I think about that, when I think it's a horror movie that has to do with escape rooms, my first thought is Saw. Like think about it. The Saw movies kind of have that feeling to them. And it's like, when I think about it, it's like, because when I think of an escape room, I haven't been to one myself, but when I think about it, it's like you're locked in this room and you have to solve puzzles to get out, right? You have to solve puzzles, you have to find clues, usually you're in a big group, so you have to work together. So what I assume is going to be the big thing about this is going to be, there's going to be traps, and you have to solve puzzles or clues or whatnot fast enough so that the traps don't kill you. It's the only thing I can think of. And so in that case, my thought is that it's going to be very Saw-like. Like, the traps are going to be very, I guess you could say, creative and interesting in their design. It's not going to be like just something as simple as, oh, you have a gun to your face. If you don't solve this puzzle quick enough, it shoots you. I don't think it's going to be something quite as simple as that. But I could be wrong. I don't know. I don't know what the setup for this is going to be. Like, are the people going to, like, suddenly wake up in the escape room? Is it going to be an escape room they actively chose to go to? There's a lot of questions that kind of go into a movie like this. When you have a horror movie that is honestly very gimmicky, that is very steeped in a specific gimmick that is popular in the real world and can be utilized in some kind of horror theme, you kind of wonder, like, what are they actually going to do? How are they going to connect all of these story beats and so on and so forth? Well, we're going to find out. And thankfully, this movie is a mercifully shorter one compared to other ones I've reacted to lately. There's been other movies I've reacted to both for the Halloween special and for just donation rewards. A lot of them have been longer, like 2 hours plus, and I'm fine with that. Like, don't think I'm not, but sometimes it's nice to have a shorter movie too, just from a reactor standpoint, because it allows me a little more breathing room, and it doesn't feel as much of a burden. When you're recording a movie reaction to a longer movie, a lot of times it feels like, oh, this is gonna take so long, it's gonna be so much. But when it's a shorter one, it feels like, oh, I can knock this out without too much problem. And the funny thing is, I actually prefer movies to be longer because I think it allows it for better content and more content within its runtime. When they're shorter, a lot of times it can feel rushed a lot easier. And so, but it's a different perspective when you're actually reacting to it and everything, and you're recording yourself reacting to it. Like if you're a reaction channel that is solely focused on movies, like that's one thing. But when I do all these daily reactions to shows and stuff and do other stuff on the channel as well, it's just like, it's a lot. It's a lot to handle. So, yeah. Either way, I'm hopeful that this movie is still good. And I'm hopeful it doesn't feel rushed. And we kind of go from there to see, like, what's going to happen and how creative and interesting this actually ends up being. I'm hoping for very, obviously. I always hope for movies to be good. I hope for everything to be good. What am I talking about? But yeah, we're going to get this started, go from there, and just see what happens. So, when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episode. Or to the movie, rather. I'm used to saying episode, you know. To the movie. So, that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So I looked it up, because I said the actor who played Mike looked familiar. And here's the funny thing. He's been in a few things I've heard of but never have seen. So I would not recognize him by his look. But I would recognize his voice, or at least I could, I guess. Because he did a voice role for a character I know fairly well, I guess you could say. He was in Voltron, Legendary Defender, as Hunk. The actor is Tyler Labine, or however you pronounce it. But yeah, he was Hunk in Voltron, Legendary Defender. And that's like pretty much the only thing on here I would know him for. There's other stuff in here like I've heard of, or just I just wouldn't really really know him for. So that's really, really interesting to find out. He must just look like someone else, some other actor or something. I don't know, but so either way, Escape Room. What did I think of this movie? It was okay. There was some good stuff for it, for sure, but there was some stuff I feel like could have been done better. The actors did a good job in their roles, and you definitely felt a lot of the tension of each of these different rooms, of each of these different traps. You can imagine being in those scenarios and definitely feeling the effects of it all and understanding how bad it could be. But then there's also some points of it that are just like kind of weak. The one room that was basically just like, okay, they move the handle and it drugs them up, and they have, and there's only one antidote and all. It's like, eh, it just didn't seem to fit in with the rest of the rooms. It didn't feel like an escape room. You know what I mean? Like there wasn't really much of any puzzle solving. And the room looked like it could have been because it had all like this trippy imagery, all these swirls and everything. But the actual room and the quote unquote puzzle in it was very disappointing, if I'm being honest. It just it just didn't feel like an escape room kind of puzzle. Most of the other stuff did. Um, I'm also disappointed that the ending is very cliche. Like the entire thing, like, oh, the cops go to check in, and oh, of course, there's nothing there. There's no evidence to support Zoe's story. Because of course not. I mean, it's like obvious that that was going to happen, but at the same time, it's like it's a little cliche, and it's like I just kind of wish they just didn't do that at all. Like maybe just cut that entire scene out because it just feels too generic. Um, the ending was fine, like the full ending where it's like, okay, we see there's this plane puzzle thing going on, and it's to prepare for Zoe and what's his face? I can't remember the names of most of them. But they're gonna be taking a plane because they're trying to take out everything, but in reality they're just being brought into another game, and it's like, okay, why not? So I guess that's where the sequel's going to go. um but yeah, it's like there was definitely a lot of good stuff, and even the puzzles and a lot of that involved in that was pretty interesting. One thing I definitely think they should have fixed, one thing I definitely wish they would have done a little better, is the actual deaths. They felt very bland. Like they just didn't, they weren't interesting. It's like, oh, she falls down a shaft. Oh, okay, that's a little boring. This guy, uh, this guy like falls into a frozen lake and drowns, and they're just kind of generic. There wasn't I wasn't necessarily expecting a huge amount of like blood and gore or anything necessarily like that, but I was expecting more creative traps, more creative deaths. The fire room, or the oven room, or whatever the hell you want to call it, that room was interesting. I liked that, but no one died in that room. That was probably the most interesting room. Um, Even the hospital room, which gave us a lot of big information on all of our characters and stuff, all it was just poison gas. And Mike just ended up being killed by the other guy because he was trying to bring the heart rate up before he realized he actually had to bring it down. So it's like all the deaths just felt very bland to me. Um, and it just didn't have as much impact as I feel it could have in that regard. I did like the twist that Zoe survived. I actually did not see that coming. Maybe some people did, and all the power to you, but I didn't. I thought she had actually died because I didn't see her put on the gas mask or anything like that. That just kind of shocked me a little bit because it's like, okay, there's this gas mask and it implies she did put it on for at least some portion of that, but it's like, so she was faking her death otherwise, and it's like, I don't know. It felt a little weird, but I mean, I liked it. It was fun to find out that she survived, and then ended up helping in the end, helping there be two survivors instead of just one. I also liked the idea that all of them there were sole survivors of horrific accidents. Um, I think that was a really interesting story plot, or plot point, to connect all the characters and showcase that this wasn't just like random happenstance, that they were chosen specifically because of that. Um, so that was really interesting. And again, the actors did a really great job. All of them like really sold their characters well. And there were even a couple you really kind of grew a little bit attached to. Mostly the two survivors, and then even Danny, I think his name was, the one who was really obsessed with escape rooms. Like you kind of liked him too. He was a cool like nerdy kid and everything. Um, but it's like as the game went on, you also realized that a couple of them were not that great, especially the businessman. Um, it's like, yeah, he kind of was scum, and it's very heavily implied that in that shipwreck and everything he murdered his friend to get the jacket and everything and to survive and all. And it's just like, oh my god, dude. Like he initially tells it that he went out to sea and just never came back or whatnot, but yeah, it's very heavily implied that that was a lie and that he did kill him. And it even shows footage of that, so we have to assume that's kind of what happened. So he's the one who I definitely felt no sympathy for when he ended up getting killed. I also like the fact that the people behind this like made these cover stories, because of course that's going to happen. Either they're just going to be declared missing persons, or there's got to be cover stories. It has to be one or the other. And like if you compare it to something like Squid Game, it's like that one just it didn't it they were just like missing persons. So in this, by them actually having these cover stories, that makes it honestly more interesting, and gives it another layer to it, with just explaining away these dead people, to hide what was really going on. I think it's a really good idea, all in all. I also like how there's different like leaders of this. Like there's a game master who's kind of like watching over everything and running the game, but then there's also a puzzle master who actually creates the puzzles. And I wonder just how many people work through all of this. We saw one figure talking to some of, I guess, the staff, you could say, at the end. But we don't know if that was the puzzle master or if it was someone else. I kind of think it was the puzzle master, because they were working on a puzzle, on the airplane puzzle. But I guess we don't know for sure. So, I mean, we'd have to see with the sequel if we ever react to that. Um, but yeah, I really think that this movie had a lot of good going for it. It was definitely enjoyable to watch. I definitely don't regret watching it. I feel like I had a fun enough time. But there were some things I just wish it did a little better. There are some things I just feel like it could have improved a little bit on. But I don't know their reasoning for doing it the way they did. They might not have had the budget to go any harder on certain things like the deaths. So just kind of enjoy it for what it is. Tell me in the comments below, though, what did you think of Escape Room? And thank you to Smurf for donating for this. If anyone wishes to donate in the future, if and when they desire to, you can comment down in any video and suggest something, and if I haven't seen it, we can go ahead and go for it. As long as I haven't seen it, any movie, series, YouTube video, whatever is fine, but it is completely optional. You don't have to if you can't or don't want to. But any amount is fine. Any amount will still get you a donation reward, no matter how big or small. And it's just a fun way to get you guys involved. Just a fun way to continue to keep you guys to suggesting stuff and getting me to watch certain things that you would love to see me react to. So, yeah. But again, completely optional. If you don't have the money or just can't do it right now or don't want to, then that's perfectly fine. So for now, though, like I said, tell me in the comments below what you thought of Escape Room. And thank you so much for tuning in. For now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.